What makes a good fantasy series? A robust magic system that is simple to understand but has a wide range of options? A detailed world with many different environments, governments, and societies? How about a strong emphasis on the struggle of its characters to help illustrate that no matter the setting, we all go through similar issues? All of this helps elevate a fantasy series, and that is why you should read Brandon Sanderson's work. But how did 2020's King's Raid fare? Well, first off, it already has a world rebuilt, as it takes inspiration from the hit mobile game of the same name, which features a slew of characters to slot into whatever story it tells. Additionally, while most of the cast are humans, we do have several other races, such as elves, orcs, and dark elves, so you can check off part 2. If you explain how the magic works, you can even check off part 1. So that just leaves crafting an interesting story for our characters to go through, and you even have 26 episodes to do it. But, spoiler alert, this series failed to sate my expectations. Its A-plot follows Kaisel and the gang on their quest to meet the former Savior's travel companions so they can unlock the magic MacGuffin to slay the Demon Lord, while the B-plot deals with Rahit trying to get revenge on Orvelia for his fantasy racism against Dark Elves. Its A-plot is rather predictable, and its characters outside of their one lore episodes feel rather bland, as they don't really develop from those episodes, but they'll come together through friendship and love to save the day. The B-plot feels more interesting, as Rahit shows a better development, as he knows he's a pawn in Orvelia's politics, but is working on a plan to take over from behind the scenes, which is complicated as he develops a working partnership with the kingdom's princess, Scarlet, who happens to be the one good noble in the kingdom, which threatens to change Rahit's plan and in ways he does not expect. But it sort of fizzles out in the second half, as after a lore dump, their quest gets changed to delivering the other magic MacGuffin so that the first magic MacGuffin doesn't backfire. Rahit still has some development as he seeks revenge for the death of his team, and it has an interesting relationship with a twist as his ancestor, who is supposedly the reason Orvelia is racist to Dark Elves, was actually innocent. But a lot of the twist in the A-plot is sort of retconned out as Cazel's ancestor willingly chose to get corrupted so he could save the sword so that Cazel could beat him, which doesn't make sense to me, but that's not the only thing this series has issues with. It also feels relatively padded, as we have at least 2 episodes that are just dedicated to flashbacks, which is lame. But it does have some alright fight choreography, so that's something. But if you're a big fan of King's Raid, you might enjoy this. But I think it would mainly come from just seeing some of your favorite characters in action, as the series won't really develop them in any major way. Now I'm going to mix it up and do a fantasy booking for a fantasy series. As for the self-imposed rules, the series I pitch has to use established characters, and I can't massively rewrite their personalities, and I must cover at least a similar length. So my first initial thought was to do some research on what this game has established lore-wise as well as established storylines, but the anime still follows the first arc of the game, so easy correction is just have stronger characters and inclusion of arcs that help develop Cazel and his group. But I want to propose a second option. I think instead of going for a one-to-one recreation of the game's story, you instead tighten the focus to 2 or 3 characters, and create a series that encompasses the game instead of just being a replacement for it. Essentially, swap the original A-plot with the B-plot. Focus on Rahit, Rapine, and Scarlet, with knights like Klaus and Dominia and the mercenaries in the Black Edge serving as secondary cast members. I see the plot being broken into 3 different parts, with an occasional glimpse into Cazel and company's quest to slay the Demon Lord. Part 1 would feature Rahit and Rapine and their mercenaries dealing with the demons and working behind the scenes to prepare their moves while hiding these moves from their keeper, eventually shifting as they get to know the actual good figures in Orvelia, specifically Scarlet, who's trying to help the people outside the capital, but is short-handed and not super aware of the evils her ancestors committed against Dark Elves. At this part, I see the development of Rahit, Rapine, and Black Edge members as they question their goal as they meet more good people in the kingdom. Maybe have Rahit and Rapine argue on whether they should pull the trigger on their plan, eventually working to a climax where Marduk, the evil wizard, sends a horde of demons to cripple the knights or find the second magic MacGuffin. While the Black Edge keepers want to see Scarlet fail and die so they can take power, the Black Edge ultimately chooses to throw their support behind Scarlet and lay their lives down to save the capital, as Scarlet is the only noble that would actually help in the systematic racism of Dark Elves in Orvelia. I do believe most of the Black Edge should die here, mostly at the hand of Marduk, to better set up the final encounter behind Rahit, Rapine, and him. The last part is the reveal of the lore and the fact that Cazel is about to spring the trap and become the next Demon Lord, starting the race to get the artifact to Cazel, before having their final fight with Marduk, before supporting Cazel for the win, then go to the epilogue. I think this provides a new niche and helps provide interest in some of the side characters, and maybe that'll get some people to check out the game. You do lose out on the preservation of the video game's story in anime form, but I think a better anime is a much better advertisement for your series and more funding for similar concepts to help better flesh out your side characters. as well as possibly provide a interesting commentary on the concept of sins of the father are the sins of the son. But that's just how I see it. If you have an idea on what you would do, put it in the comments. But if you're wondering whether you should watch it, I would say skip this one unless you're completely out of fantasy series to watch.